morning, everyone. The talk would be about Ember and React. Technically, it's not versus React, so I didn't really know how to spell it out in understandable. It's more about Ember and React. So talk about both of the technologies. It's not necessarily about which one's better, because actually that's one of the things I should go into later. So first about myself, I introduced myself earlier. So my name is Radu Creosteanu. I'm the Chief Technical Officer at Fleetster. A little bit more detail on our technology. We're working with MongoDB in the database, Node.js on the backend, with now adding TypeScript to most of the services. The technology is constructed on an architecture of microservices. We have Ember.js on the client side. We're both version 1 and version 2 on different sort of clients. We have React Native, and a few other technologies sprinkled throughout. The company is constructing web services for corporate vehicles. So it's like fleet management, corporate car sharing, logistics, and various other services related to cars, mostly centered on the proposition of connected vehicles. So being able to control the car remotely with your smartphone or other services. So the company is hiring JavaScript developers. If you're interested, let me know. The company is very heavy on the JavaScript, so actually I don't think we really have other technologies anymore. So first, let's start with a little bit of a disclaimer. The topic of which library is better than the other one is a very sensitive topic, and I don't intend to offend anyone through this talk. If you are offended, then don't talk to me, please. The talk is more about the advantages and disadvantages that we realized about these two particular technologies over time. So let's start with the first one. When we started off, when the company started off about 4 years ago, the original technology was PHP on the back end with a framework called PHP, and the front end was constructed using Backbone, Knockout, and Marionette, if anybody knows what those are. Now, we moved away from that particular technology, and I mean, at the time, most of these things were still quite early. I hadn't even heard of React, and Ember was still in pre-launch phase, so there was no official stable version of Ember. We were using 0.8, I think, or something. One version of Ember that was supposedly not, actually, it wasn't stable. And we, at the time, looked at the different options. We could continue going with Backbone, we could choose Ember, or we could choose Angular. Those were really the only realistic options we had at the time. And this is first what we are currently looking at. So the primary client that we have constructed is still using Ember 1. It's the Ember 1.13, the latest version. The client size is now about 130,000 lines of code. So it is a significant size of a project in that sense. About 2 years ago, Ember 2 was, 2 years ago I think, about 2 years ago, Ember 2 was launched. And we have created our administrative client. This is a separate interface that's used to manage the whole system, and we built that one in Ember 2, which now is around 40,000 lines of code. Now, why did we choose it? And actually, I still stand by our original choice. So even if I was presented with the same choice, I would still choose Ember over React, to be honest. First of all, it has a series of very strong conventions and standards that it enforces. When you use Ember, or especially Ember 2, you have to follow a predetermined path. It doesn't give you a lot of flexibility. And actually, that's the point. When you don't have sufficient experience in the topic of how to construct complex UIs, you want someone to take those decisions for you and provide you a path that will actually allow you to build the product that you need. So it provides a relatively good long-term growth pattern. You can expect to be able to construct a large-scale application that can do lots of fancy things. And it's also very fast to start. Especially Ember 2. So now with Ember 2, the prototyping stage of your thing can be made blazingly fast, especially if you're aware of the different libraries and plugins that exist. You can integrate most of the things that you need. So a simple application which has authentication and different other resources will be started in a matter of minutes to an hour. So when we started this off, we had experience of constructing our previous clients, but we didn't really have the confidence to say we could establish a proper architecture. So Ember was the right choice for us. Of course, now it's a little bit further down the road, and we have gained significant amounts of experience, and we have identified some problems with Ember, which we are trying to solve. So moving on to the next technology. With React, we started off at the beginning of last year with React Native actually. That's the primary experience that we have with React. But React Native or React architecturally is not so much of a difference. We're working with different bricks, but the process is the same. And our mobile apps are now almost all of them in React Native, and I'd say it's about 30,000 lines of code altogether, so it's not as big. But React is also more concise than Ember, so you can have the same functionality in significantly less quantity of code. And we have recently kicked off some clients for our different microservices which are relying on React, which represent our proposition for the future frontends we will be using. So what are the advantages of React? Well, there are no opinions, there are no standards, and it is incredibly lightweight. It doesn't really do much for you, and you have to decide everything else. So it forces, well, it doesn't force you, but you have to choose how you build everything. So what is your directory structure? What are you going to be using to communicate with the server? Every little detail is your choice. It gives you full freedom. And our service is not very standard, which is the case for most companies, especially startups. So React is helping us deal with all of these little exceptions that the business team is always asking for. So this is what made React very interesting for us. And now, just to sum things up, the question is which one's the right tool for you? It really depends on your circumstance. Do you need just prototypes? Do you really not need something that's dealing with long-term development or complex projects? Ember is a very fine choice. It's very fast to development and probably will take care of most of the things you need to do. If you don't have confidence in establishing the architecture for your front end, then Ember is still the right choice. If you're feeling confident or you feel you have achieved a certain level of mastery in front-end JavaScript technologies, then React's a very nice tool to use. I personally find it more pleasant to code in React than Ember, but that's very subjective. And if you have a very custom sort of project which doesn't follow standard guidelines or philosophies, then React's a better choice. It will save you a lot of time. And that is the presentation. You can now go to questions. Yes, go ahead.
You said that you personally like to code in React more than Ember. Why is that?
Well, seeing how it's a subjective assessment, it's very hard for me to describe. To be honest, Ember 2 is moving to become very similar in philosophy to React, right? So Ember 2 is also component-based architecture. But the difference, I mean, in the end it is something where in React I feel complete control and ownership over the code. Ember does a lot of magic for you. Lots of things Ember does for you, and whenever you stray away from the path, Ember just keeps hitting you. So it's not a very pleasant experience trying to convince Ember to do something else. Whilst with React, I mean, you built everything, so yeah.
Makes sense.
Can you share some of the standards Ember is following, which is good and also bad?
Sorry, say again?
Some standards, like you said.
You mean with Ember?
Ember, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's establishing everything for you. It tells you how it's establishing this routing mechanism, right? So that you have routing files. Establishes controllers. It tells you the directory structure. Because Ember 2 is constructed, you don't really use it without Ember CLI, which is what Angular 2 is also implementing. For those of you who are familiar, they're now developing Angular CLI, which is actually a knockoff of the Ember CLI. The CLI, the command line interface tool for Ember, is basically doing everything else. It has generators, it has the development server for you, it has the linting and everything integrated. So it's doing, you don't have a choice anymore. You have to follow this structure, for example, which React doesn't. React advocates the project structure based on purpose rather than type. So you don't group routes into their own routes folder anymore. You don't have controllers into the controllers and the templates into your templates file. With React, if you want to use it, what you would do is you would group by feature. You would say, my route, my controller, and my... You don't normally use those things. But if you had those, you would have all of them in one place, related to one page or one concept. Whilst with Ember, you just don't do that, because it won't let you. So Ember literally sets all of the standards and conventions that you need in order to construct a client. Don't really have much choice there.
Next.
Okay.
That actually reminds me a little bit of Rails. It did the same thing. Don't work against the framework, but do it as they wish or leave it.
Exactly, because Ember, the whole Ember thing is kicked off by one of the founders from Rails.
Ah, okay.
So, it follows the exact same philosophy. Don't work against the framework, let them handle the... and it makes sense, right? So
If you have the use case, then it's totally fine.
And actually, to be honest, Ember integrates seamlessly with Ruby on Rails, so it's a very good fit. So that's why I'm saying, if your project is standard, if your project is logical, which most business requests are not, Ember is an awesome solution for it because it takes all of that responsibility from you. You don't have to think about, how do I do routing, how do I do all of these different things. It has lots of stuff already built for you. Further questions?
I guess I can just close for now first,
Yeah,
and then all the other questions go to the pause. Because we have exactly you one from. Okay.
So you're switching in the future completely, so you're
Yes.
doing like running both now, but slightly other new features coming in React.
No, we're doing it from a different angle. So there are two choices. If you want to, that's actually a good question. If you're interested in transitioning from Ember to React, there are two possible choices. Choice number one is you can literally use React within Ember. So you can have your React application in Ember, and this sort of the React application is growing like a cancer inside Ember, until at one point you just kick off Ember completely. That's one option, because React is so flexible and it allows you to do this. Option number two, which is what we're doing, is we wanted to do this anyways. We're starting to decompose our clients. So it's no longer going to be this one massive client that does everything for you, but instead we're moving a lot of your responsibility to other clients. So it's still a gradual shift, just different philosophy.
I have another question. If you as a programmer do something wrong and the error handling of the both frameworks, how would you compare those?
That's a good question. So with React Native, the error handling is extremely bad. It's very hard to understand anything that React Native does, because React Native is integrated into the mobile applications, and most of our experience, to be honest, is in that subject. With React itself, the errors are pretty good. I wouldn't complain that much. But with Ember, the errors are also pretty decent. So the only problem is if the error in Ember is because, or the problem in Ember is because you try to do something which is not respecting the conventions, then it's very hard to actually find out, I did that wrong. I named this route or this controller wrong. I should have used the Ember CLI to generate my route. Because I wrote it by hand, I did this one letter capital, which I shouldn't have, and now nothing works.
Alright, thanks a lot.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Then we have 15 minutes pause, and then we have another presenter, Wolfram, who will talk about TDD and other interesting stuff he's doing. So yeah, join in 15 minutes, of course.
Thank you.